Radionuclides are radioactive elements that exist naturally in the Earth's crust and can also be introduced through industrial processes. In the context of construction, these substances can be found in raw materials, industrial byproducts, and even recycled waste, making radiation exposure a potential issue in building. For the first key is, what are the radionuclides? Radionuclides are naturally or artificially occurring radioactive elements. Where are they found? They are found present in rock, soil, materials used in construction. So what's the type of exposure? Such as gamma radiation, radon gas, and internal contamination. So the common sources in building, which is materials like granite, bricks, cement, and even fly ash. So why does it matter? At long-term exposure may pose health risks, especially indoors. So what's the purpose of the study? To identify sources, evaluate risk, and raise awareness for safety use.
So, for the basic concept of radionuclides pathway, radionuclides are unstable atoms that release energy to reach a stable state, and this process is known as radioactive decay. The pathway of radionuclides begins when these unstable atoms are released into the environment through natural sources like rocks, soil, or cosmic rays, or through human activities such as nuclear medicine, nuclear power plants, or industrial process. Once released, radionuclides can move through the air, water, or soil, eventually entering the food chain and human bodies. For example, they can settle on plants, be consumed by animals, and eventually reach humans through inhalation, ingestion, or direct contact. The pathway typically involves three main stages: source, where the radionuclides originates; environmental transport, how it moves through air, water, or soil; exposure pathway, how humans or organisms are exposed, either by breathing it in, eating contaminated food, or absorbing it through the skin. Understanding this pathway is essential because it helps predict how radiation exposure can affect human health and the environment.
Source of radionuclides in building material comes from both naturally and through human activity. First, most radionuclides come from the Earth's crust. Material like granite, phosphate, naturally contain uranium, thorium, and potassium. When we use this rock in construction, especially indoors, they can give off low level of radiation. Next, building materials like clay, sand, and limestone inherit radionuclides from the soil or rock they come from. For example, clay brick can contain higher potassium depending on the region. Even the same material can have very different levels based on location. A major concern is radon gas, which comes from uranium decay in building materials. It's odorless and dangerous when inhaled, especially in closed spaces without ventilation. This makes indoor air quality a key issue in radiation safety. Some materials use industrial byproducts like fly ash or phosphogypsum, which can contain concentrated radionuclides. These are called tannums, and while they support recycling, they can raise radiation level if not tested properly. Recycled construction waste from old or contaminated building may also carry radionuclides. Without proper screening, we could unknowingly reuse radioactive materials in new buildings.
So, explain how each radionuclide decays to radiation. Radionuclides decay by transforming into more stable atoms, releasing radiation in the process. There are several common types of decay. The first one, alpha decay. In this process, radionuclides like uranium-238 release alpha particles, which are made of 2 protons and 2 neutrons. Alpha particles can be stopped by paper or skin but are dangerous if inhaled or ingested. Second, beta decay. Radionuclides such as carbon-14 undergo beta decay, where a neutron changes into a proton, releasing a beta particles, like an electron or positron. Beta radiation can penetrate the skin, but it's usually stopped by the clothing or thin metals. Next, gamma rays. Often alpha or beta decay, the nucleus is still in an excited state and release energy as gamma rays. Gamma rays are highly penetrating and require dense materials like lead or concrete for shielding. For example, cobalt-16 is a gamma emitter. So the last one, positron emission. Some radionuclides like fluorine-18 used in medical imaging release positrons, which quickly collide with electron to produce gamma radiation. Each radionuclide has its own unique decay mode, half-life, and radiation energy, which is why their biological and environmental impacts varies.
Radionuclides in building materials can expose us to harmful radiation in two main ways, externally and internally. External exposure happens when materials like concrete, granite, or bricks release gamma rays. These rays are highly penetrating. They can pass through walls and human tissue, damaging internal organs over time. Internal exposure occurs when we inhale radon gas, which comes from the decay of radium-226 found in cement and soil beneath buildings. Radon is odorless and invisible, but is a major cause of lung cancer. Internal exposure can also come from ingesting food or water that has absorbed radionuclides from contaminated soil. Now, how does this radiation cause harm? Ionizing radiation can break chemical bonds in our cells, creating free radicals that attack DNA strands. If this DNA damage isn't repaired properly, it can lead to mutations, cell death, or worse, uncontrolled cell growth, which is how cancer begins. The organs most at risk include the lungs from radon and the thyroid, digestive system, and bone marrow from internal accumulation. The good news is we can take steps to reduce our exposure to radiation from building materials. First, we need to choose materials that are tested and certified for low radioactivity. For example, bricks and concrete should be assessed for radium equivalent activity to make sure they are safe for long-term indoor use. Second, we must control radon gas, which builds up indoors from soil and cement. The best prevention is installing radon ventilation systems, especially in basements and ground floors. This includes subslab depressurization systems, where fans suck radon gas out from beneath the house before it enters the air we breathe. Additionally, regular testing of indoor and soil radon levels is important, especially in areas known to have high natural background radiation. By combining low radioactivity materials with proper radon mitigation, we can significantly reduce health risks related to radionuclides in our homes and buildings. In conclusion, radionuclides found in building materials can pose serious health risks, especially if exposure is long-term and unmanaged. Understanding their pathways, decay processes, and how they damage tissue is essential for effective risk control. Practical steps like radon mitigation and safe material selection can greatly reduce radiation exposure in the built environment. Lastly, continuous monitoring and raising public awareness are crucial to ensure radiation safety in homes, schools, and workplaces.
So, for acknowledgement, first, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our lecturer, Prof. ZAIDI, for their valuable guidance, passion, and support throughout this assignment. Their expertise and advice has been essential in helping me explore and understand the topic of radionuclides in building materials. I also wish to thank the university and faculty for providing access to learning materials, research platforms, and results that greatly supported my study and presentation. Special appreciation goes to the researcher and authors whose studies on radiation exposure from natural radionuclides in construction materials form the foundation of this presentation. Their contribution have provided reliable scientific data that enhance the accuracy of my work. I'm truly grateful to my lecturer and friends for their continuous support and motivation during this project. Lastly, I would like to thank my classmates for their valuable discussion and encouragement throughout this process. Thank you all for your attention.